received a package in the mail or UPS. I don't know, it was left on the front porch. I think I know what it is, which is probably because I have tracking, so I'm pretty sure I know what this one is. I did want to show you that I'm almost done. I have half of the uneven satin stitch heart to complete. And once I get that done, I'm going to go ahead and do the green vines with the blue berries like I've done here. The box will be in purple. The star will be in this pretty pink. If I can untangle it from my scissors. Wow. Wow. Okay. And the little bitty heart on this side over here, right there, will be done the same as this one. I want the boxes to match. So, and then that will get eventually popped in the mail. All right. Scissors that I use for opening packages or cutting paper. Check. Now, if this is what I think it is, well, we'll just have to see first. We'll do that. Make sure I'm not. Okay. Yes, it is. Okay, so this is the Andover Riviera Rose cotton fabric that I chose to use. Love this fabric as the lining fabric for the Quilt As You Go Sew by Number Alexandra Tote by June Taylor. So the jelly roll that I ordered, I think, is just running late. I think this is really pretty, and I think it will go very, very nicely with the colors in the jelly roll that I did order. When I look at this fabric, I see traditional, I see a little bit of farmhouse, and I also see a little bit of Western. So it kind of ticks all the boxes for me, plus the red and the white pop. I love that. So the other thing I wanted to talk about, of course, is this. Again, I just love it. I love Seven Berry. This fabric is so nice. I could play with it all day. So I decided I was going to make a table topper, table runner with scallop edge. And I tried so many different methods for getting a scallop edge. I did eventually come up with the perfect method for me, but I decided to try to draw a template using a piece of paper from my daily notes notebook. And while that would maybe work if I had proper drawing equipment, in this particular case I was dealing with a very slippery Clotilda measuring device there and a friction pen that was running out of ink, and I had not really thought about how I was going to transfer the information that I'm drawing there for my template onto the fabric. So I did go ahead and draw out this template, and then of course I cut it using my paper cutting scissors, and it might work for a future project, but it's not long enough, and the scallops are just not deep enough in the inner point that it works well for me in this situation, which we will see in just a moment. So that fabric there is the top, and the blue batiste is the bottom of my table runner, and I'm using the 7-berry for the scallops. And I'm just trying to see what it's going to look like, which of course I loved it. So the first mistake I made was, of course, I did not have my fabric folded correctly. I should have folded the fabric right sides together, and as you can see, I have folded it wrong sides together. So I valiantly trudge on with my determination here. I'm gonna trace this out. Thankfully I'm using friction ink. Oh, if only future Laurie could talk to past Laurie. Oh my goodness. So I'm just tracing along. And if you had one of those expensive $45, $50 scallop template rulers, it might work because they're large enough, and I think the information on them pretty much tells you how to do this. But no, that didn't work. So, as you can see, there are 2 tea canisters in the background. And I'm finally getting closer to what it is that I need to do. But I start with, for some strange reason, the small one. And again, if future Laurie could have talked to past Laurie, we would not be having these issues. But I did learn a couple of things along the way. Now I have sewn around this one, and now I'm going to cut away the excess fabric after I fold it in half and cut. I'm just finger pressing here. Okay, and then I'm going to cut this in half because I only want half. I don't want a full circle, obviously. But I'm sure you can tell these are tiny, absolutely tiny. They would work, say, around a baby's collar on a baby outfit. I did find that using my chopstick skewer thing really helped as I developed the project out. I saved both of these. They're very cute. I'll use them for something. Didn't quite catch that one, but that was something I learned as this project was developing. You just trim along that edge. And then flip it to the proper side. The more I got into this, the more they reminded me of little, like, blueberries or macarons or something. And then there they are together. Just adorable. So cute. And I had a great time making them. I did end up making a large number, but of course I end up using the bigger tea canister. You can see it's definitely bigger. And again, I should have remembered to turn my fabric. See, again, I've got it wrong sides together, and I should have had it right sides together. But I did finally get it all together. And you do want to leave enough around each one of those circles. Whatever size circle that you cut, leave yourself enough fabric that you can trim away the proper amount. You don't want to have, first of all, your circles too close together, and secondly, you need that extra fabric so that you'll have enough to trim away. It'll make sense as we go. And the other thing I wanted to point out, I don't know if I do here, is the angle of your pen or pencil. If you hold your pencil straight up and down, you're going to get a completely different size. And I wanted each of mine to be the proper size. Now I did have to go back and iron this ink off and start over on this particular side right here because my fabric is right sides out. But we'll just soldier on, get it done. Okay, so now that I have those correctly drawn on the wrong side of the fabric with a fuzz thing, what I plan to do next is pin through each one with a short glass head pin. I don't want to use a long pin because I end up stabbing myself. But I do want to make sure that they're pinned together with the front and the back before I cut them out. So I'm just pinning. With my scissor or my fabric scissors. So I have a stack that are pinned. So let's see, there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So this will yield 20 half circles or scallops. So I will go ahead and get these all stitched, and then when I come back we'll see what happens when we cut them in half and turn them right side out, and see what that looks like. The other thing I wanted to mention before I continue is I'm changing out the sewing needle on my sewing machine because this needle, while it is still in good shape and I can still use it, it's too heavy duty for this very lightweight, filmy, cottony fabric. So I'm going to put it back in the box from which it came. I'll put a piece of tape on the box so I know that it has been used. And I'm going to load up the smaller 8012 needle that is more appropriate to this fabric. So these have been stitched. I went ahead and just used my dark green thread. It's really not going to be a problem, I don't think, in this particular case. One thing that I wanted to point out, or I actually have a couple things. If you've not sewn in circles before, I mean, you know, these little small, what are these? They are almost 3 inches across. That's still pretty small. I would recommend that you practice on like weighted fabric. In other words, I wouldn't practice on twill if your project is for, say, a lightweight cotton, and vice versa. Don't practice on lightweight cotton and then go back to working with twill. It needs to be something very similar. So even if you have to just cut a little piece of your project fabric to practice, I do recommend that you do that if you've not sewn in a circle before. Also, if it is an issue, definitely starch your fabric, because if you starch your fabric, it's less likely to bunch up underneath your sewing machine needle. Speaking of sewing machine needles, make sure that the machine needle that you're using is the correct size for the fabric that you're going to be using in your project. If the needle is too big, it will snag your fabric, it will poke holes in your fabric, it might even push your fabric down into your sewing machine. And if it's too small for your fabric, it could break. So run a few practice stitches if you're not sure. Make sure it's, you know, that your needle is good. It doesn't have any burrs. It's not bent. You know, it's a decent needle. The other thing I wanted to suggest was that I'm looking at, oh, okay, they're cherry blossoms. For half a second I thought it was snowing. And if you are using a lightweight cotton, definitely go ahead and do the starch and then put a pin in the middle like this to kind of hold it together. That will absolutely be a lifesaver right there. Just don't stab yourself. Okay, and then we're going to do a couple of these on camera, and I will finish them up off camera. Oh, what was I doing? Okay, there we go, and this one. And I didn't bother trimming out my threads as I went. I just decided I would do it as part of this. Okay. And then of course remember that you will have to trim around, but we want to make sure that we're cutting these in half. So I'm going to fold them in half and match my stitching line like so. Okay, and then you can either press them with your iron or just finger press. Finger pressing works just fine. You'll get a crease, and then you can use your rotary cutter and Omni Grid if you can get your hands on your stuff. I'm having issues apparently. Okay, here we go. So I'm just going to line up my Omni Grid on that fold and cut that in half. And we'll just trim right around just like so. And you may find it helpful to have something like a chopstick with a pointy end or a skewer to help separate the fabric. Okay. Oh, this, I like this a lot better size-wise. And I will press them so you can see what they look like in their finished form. All right, here they are. So we have 1, 2, 3. I feel like I didn't get this one pressed out, but I can work on it a little bit more. There we go. There we go, perfect. 4. Now I'm going to put a piece of white fabric behind it so that you can actually see. So as you can see, it's basically the same idea as it is with the prairie points. You're just deciding how close together or how far apart you want each one to be, just like we did with these, where we had to decide, you know, do we want them really close together or really far apart? How do we want that to look? So that's basically the same idea, and we're going to put them into this project the same way. We'll pin them. I'll figure out how I want my corners to be. I think sometimes if you have, because you have to line them up on the inside and then you stitch and then you flip it to the outside, and you'll end up with something like this, or a little bit closer together, like so, depending on how, you know, how you're going to come around that corner, that edge, but that will be decided as I go. So I have quite a number here to do. I'll end up with 20 when I am finished with that, but as you can see, I am more than likely going to need a lot more than 20, depending on how close together or how far apart I choose to put them. Because in reference to this, they are quite small, but they're so cute. It occurred to me while I'm doing this part right here that if I had marked the center of each of these before I stitched them, you know, if I had drawn the circles and then with my ruler had marked the center, it might have been an easier operation to get this block folded in half, etc., etc. And it's just not that difficult. So instead of trying to do it with the pen, basically what I'm doing is I'm folding it toward me, because if I fold this back, I can see my stitch line, and I can see the stitch line on the bottom, and then all I have to do is just line that up, and it's real simple. I mean, seriously, it's just a matter of lining that up and then finger press or use your fingernail, whatever works. And then, and if you have used spray starch on these to stitch, then the finger pressing is a breeze, because the starch makes it really easy to do that finger press. It just automatically takes that fold. And then just cut that in half. And I mean, you know, obviously if we're sewing, we know there's not a magic wand. We don't want there to be a magic wand. We want the process like so. We want to have something to do. Okay, so now in my mind, I'm thinking what I'll do is trim them all first, and then I will turn them all at the same time and go to the ironing board once instead of trim, turn, press. That would be too much for me, I think. And trim. And of course you do have to be careful. You want to make sure that you're not going to cut through your stitching. I'm going to go, I guess I'll just do that here. I'm going to turn these to the proper side. For something that packs such a punch visually, they really don't take up very much fabric. So I just think they're adorable. So those 4, 8, 12, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So this will leave me with 20 once I get them pressed. And the other thing I wanted to discuss before I go tonight, since I said I would do it and I've already moved this note twice, is discuss the batting that I have that I said I was going to talk about tomorrow. So this is the first time that I've ever used this brand. It's Quilter's Dream, and it's called Thin Quilt Batting. I purchased it in a throw size, so it's 60 by 60 inches. I don't know what AQCO is, American Quilting Company, Quilt Patterns maybe? I don't know. They have a store on Amazon, and this is, I purchased this on Amazon. So we will see, oops, I lost one of my little dudes. So we will see how this works with my table topper. And something to think about, I realize that the next time I see you, you're going to think it's just been 2 seconds, but I wanted to get this thought out before it's like I'm cooking dinner right now. So anyway, one idea that I thought about when I was cooking dinner, getting things ready to cook in there, was that you could actually take 2 different fabrics, right? It would be so cute. So let's just say that you had this fabric right here, and you had this fabric. If you drew your circle and then you stitched it together and then you cut it in half, you could potentially have one, this side. I don't know why I'm complicating it with that, but you could have one this side in your project, and then the next one could be this side, and you could alternate back and forth, which I think would be really cute, depending on what you're using it for. You could even do embroidery on plain fabric, like just do like a lazy daisy, and then do a print fabric little circle thing, and then you could have that back and forth, back and forth, back and forth in this size, your little scallopy size. So anyway, this is the way my brain works. I'm sorry, I just kind of go all over the place thinking about things. I can't get over these. I hope you're enjoying them as much as I am, and I will see you tomorrow. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and show you sewing in a circle just all the way around, and they're marked. I used my tea canister lid, marked around it with a friction clicker erasable, and these have not been treated with starch. I'll show you the difference after I sew this one so that you can see that for some it might be beneficial to go ahead and spray starch. I'll have to redraw my line because this is heat erase ink. But that's okay. So I'm going to line up, and I've just got my machine set on the default settings. It's a straight stitch, needle down position on my Bernina, and I'm using the Universal 8012 Schmetz sewing needle. And this fabric is a 7-berry, and it's a cotton, 100% cotton, and if you're not familiar with it, it feels like Liberty of London lawn, cotton lawn. It's that lightweight. So if you've ever felt that fabric, then this is what that feels like. And as I said, it has not been starched. So I'm going to have my needle enter into the fabric right on the drawn line, and I'm going to be utilizing both of my hands. This hand, my left hand, will be used to kind of pull the fabric like this as it is being stitched. The machine obviously is going to want to go straight, and because it moves in a straight line, I need to manipulate the fabric this way. But this point right here is where I will adjust the bias pull, because I'm throwing in a circle. I'm going to have a lot of stretch as I go around. So that's a whole different discussion about bias, but it causes a lot of stretch and pull in the fabric. So if you want your circles to be circles, I kind of fell off of that line a little bit, but I felt like this looked a little straighter. There we go. Then you do have to manipulate with both hands. So you'll be sewing like this direction, and you'll be pulling your fabric, and you're going to adjust the stretch with this little point right here with your right hand. Okay, so here we go. Oh, and by the way, I'm not going to be sewing at 100 miles an hour. Even, you know, even if I weren't doing a video, when I'm going in a circle, I don't want to have to pull these stitches out. So here we go. And you can smooth out where it starts to get kind of bunchy. And then this little point comes along, and I'll use it to pull. I don't know if you can tell, but it's starting to kind of bunch up a little bit right here. I'm going to pull that out with this point. I'm also pulling away this direction over here. And if it gets bunchy, I just smooth it out. You can also raise and lower your presser foot to take out some of that scrunched up fabric. So a lot of people will do this. If necessary. That's where the knee lift on your sewing machine would come in handy if you happen to have one. I do not. And then you just want where you're coming from to meet up with where you've been. And I usually go over that, you know, 4 or 5 stitches. Okay, and there's, oh, back up a little bit, whoa. And there's this circle right here. And that's where I crossed over. You can see where the threads meet. Okay, so that is how I do that without starch. So now I will go starch this one, and I will have to retrace the line because it will erase with the heat, but then I'll show you the difference, and it might make a difference for you. Alright, so it's like a piece of paper right now. It's seriously crispy. I just used Niagara heavy duty spray starch, but you can see there's a huge difference in the fabric now that it has been starched. This is untreated. It's just soft. This is treated. I don't know if that's even going to show up, but you can definitely feel the difference in your hand between this and this. Alright, now I am going to, now remember to fold it right sides together. You want to sew on the wrong side so that when you're done you can flip it around to the right side. Okay, so this is my fabric. It's folded right sides together, wrong sides out. I will trace, and you can also see that it truly does help if your fabric is starched. If you're doing a finger press, it's almost as good as creasing it with an iron. It's truly amazing. All right. Okay, so I've traced it. I need to put a pin to pin these so that they don't shift under the sewing machine needle. Right in the center is your best option. Okay, and now I'm just going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to put my sewing machine needle right where my line is that I've drawn and start stitching. I am pushing with this hand right here. And then all I have to do is just line up the stitches with where I've been. Now the one thing you may have noticed is I did not need to use my right hand to guide and pull because my fabric was stabilized with that starch. I really didn't have an issue with it pulling out of shape. And there's the circle right there. We'll finish just attaching along this long edge, and it'll be the same, you know, two touching with one on top like so, all the way down. And then I'll either hand baste all the way across, all the way down, all the way across, all the way down, remove all of the pins, and then this is the backing that I will apply the Quilter's Dream, I think is what my batting is called. I'll use a spray adhesive and we'll put that on and stitch it up, and then I have to decide how I want to quilt. Okay, I will be back in a little bit. Okay guys, so I'm sewing away and I ran out of bobbin thread, which if you've been following me, you know every single time I run out of bobbin thread, I remove my throat plate, which means I have to drop my feed dogs. So I drop my feed dogs, remove my throat plate, take the bobbin and bobbin case out of this area right here, and clean. So if I do that every single time, and I'm getting this much lint, you can just imagine if I did not clean this area of my sewing machine as often as I do, how horrible it would be. So it is something that I do all the time. I'm sure that those of you who have been following me for a while are like, yes, we know you do it every single time. But I do want people to be aware. So if you're new here, welcome, and just be aware that this is one of those little maintenance things that I do. And I feel like it's exactly the same thing as running out of fuel in your car. You would have to stop and put fuel in it. That's basically what we're doing. We're maintaining a machine that works really, really hard for us. So I just take a paintbrush that's kind of in between super soft and super, non-flexible. And I try to clean off as much as I can. And once I get this dusted out, I will then take a can of air. A lot of people say don't do it, but I do. Hold it far away from your machine. Okay, so I don't know what this is. Let's measure that. I can't get to my measuring tape. Okay. So this is one. I'm 8 inches away. I don't know what it says on the can of air, and I don't really care. I'm going to be 8 inches away, and I'm going to angle up just a wee bit. Okay. And then right under here. And that's basically it. And I don't do a full blast. I just don't. Alright, since I'm using dark colored thread, I'll go ahead and use this seafoam green. Make sure that my bobbin is releasing clockwise, which it is. Check my bobbin tension. Yep. Okay. I don't have a self-threading bobbin area, so, oh, wait. Okay, so I just thought I'd share that with you. If you haven't cleaned out your sewing machine in a while, it might be an opportunity to take a look at that. And I'm going to go ahead and finish stitching the rest of this, and I think that will be it. If I need any more after this, it would be a 1 or 2. I don't think I'm going to need a big huge amount. So I'll get as much of that done, and I'll see you back here. The little trim has been basted on, and I did go ahead and press it out because I just wanted to see what it was going to look like. I don't think it's going to hurt anything. I mean, I will have to turn it back to the inside, But I mean, how cute is this? Ah, I just love it. It's so adorable. Okay, so the next step, of course, will be to pull this back to the inside, which is fine. And I will need, actually, I need my blue fabric right here. So this has been spray adhesive to my backing fabric. And now I will just have this fabric face up with this fabric right sides together. And then of course when you stitch the whole thing and you turn it to the right side out, this will be on the inside. So that's how that works. So now I will just start pinning. I need to leave a turn through opening, so I'll do it on the pinked edge, and I just need it wide enough so I can stitch to about here. All right, so when I come back, we're going to turn it to the right side. Okay, so I need to poke out, here we go. I really want to use my turner. Okay, so this is what I have. I bought it in the quilting section of Joann a long time ago. This is the opening, so I'm going to take the pointy part to push out the corners gently. I don't want to poke a hole in my fabric. I'm going to give it a quick press again just to make sure everything is the way it's supposed to be. Right. And what I'm going to do is just top stitch right along the outer edge. There it is, I finished it. I love it, it's so pretty. I already have the table runner on from Easter, and I don't know if you recall, but it's the double-sided with the prairie points. That's the same fabric as what we just did on the other side. And then I just flipped it to this side for Easter because we have the bunny rabbits. Okay, let's put a plate. Yeah, I do. I like that. I think it's really pretty. It turned out lovely. I love doing little projects like this with these little scallops, and I think they would translate well to everything. You could do this for pillows and apparel and home decor, blankets, kitchen items. I plan to use the remaining little scallops that we have in there on the bottom of a kitchen towel, and I'll be showing that soon. I don't know when, but I do have other projects to work on. But that's fun. I completed another table runner, and as you can see, I use them. I have one over there, and of course these two. I have an antique over there on my sideboard, and then in this room I folded one over and I'm using it under that bowl of flowers, we'll say. The Valentine table topper is on my entryway table. So I find them very useful. I think they protect your furniture, they add a little bit of whimsy, and they're fun to make.